Hello and a very good afternoon to all. Uh, I am Pratik Gaiki, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics, Shri Shivaji Arts, Commerce and Science College, Mota District, Buldana. So, as you know, as yesterday we had put brochure and the registration form regarding this certificate course in renewable energy that we are going to organize from 5th to 14th August 2021. So I hope you all might have responded to the forms and you might have registered yourself for your this renewable energy certificate course. So this is basically a very good certificate course. I can say that will actually make you more acquainted regarding the renewable energy and the sources related with it. Okay, so these are the things that we actually have to go into deeper thing, and not actually we simply not from the surface, means not only we will go through the surface of the each and every topic, but we will try to go more and more deeper into it. Okay, so as you can see, we have organized this uh, certificate course of 10 days from 5th to 14th August, and the speakers are from our department itself. Okay, so first of all, before beginning this lecture, I would sincerely pay my homage to Dr. Punjab Rao alias Bhausab Deshmukh, and with, from with his this thing, I will just proceed to our this lecture series. Okay, so first of all, the organizing committee. Our organizing committee consists of Dr. Sunil Pandey sir, who is the principal of our Modara College, and IQAC coordinator Mr. Avinash Mehrkar sir. Then also Vilas Hiranwale sir is the head of department. And for the certificate course in renewable energy, the convener is Dheeraj Channekar sir. Okay, I Pratik Gaiki is the co-convener, and Parag Brahmankar sir is the organizing secretary, as you can see. Okay, the speakers, as we know, as we can see, the speakers for this course, certificate course, are Vilas sir, then Channekar sir, Brahmankar sir, Behre madam, I, myself, Pratik Gaiki, and Bankar sir. Okay, so let's begin. So this is the content of the course. This is the activity schedule. Okay, we have this activity schedule means from 10 days what we are going to do. Okay, in this during this 10 days what we are exactly going to do. So first of all, let me just tell you in brief that we are doing means what we are actually going to do. All right. So these are the things basically starting from day one. Okay, this is the day one. This is the day one we have here, day one of the fifth, that is today, that is 5th August 2021. It should have been, but it's fine. Okay, so well, so these are the contents, and it can go ahead. So I am just introducing you. I am simply introducing you these things. Means regarding the introduction for renewable energy sources. First of all, okay. So as we can see this thing. So renewable energy sources we have. So first of all, what are actually the renewable energy sources? I hope you might all know. So what are the renewable energy sources? First of all, let us simply get on to the process. Means what are renewable energy sources and non-renewable energy sources? And also, one might really have something different. Something also one might have some idea regarding this conventional and non-conventional sources. Then renewable and non-renewable sources. One might have clear idea regarding this thing. So first of all, let me tell you that renewable source is something that renewable source is something that we have to actually know about it really clear idea. Okay, so this thing non-conventional and renewable energy sources, and conventional and non-renewable energy sources, these terms are a bit different. Okay, so before getting into it, let me just tell you that we are going to study. First of all, I am going to deliver you introduction regarding this thing. Then also we will day by day as we proceed into the certificate course, we actually venture into more deeper things. Like first of all, we have introduced this thing. So what is renewable energy sources? How good these are. Then after that, we will see something means few things more and in deep also. regarding the photovoltaic cell or the usage of solar energy. After that, we are going to see biomass and biogas, how it is useful. Okay, and after that, we are going to see this biogas, biomass. Okay, after that, we are going to see this geothermal energy and wind energy, the tidal energy. Okay, then use of hydrogen as efficient fuel, and also after that we are going to see this few things regarding this how you can be using this other renewable sources, like means devices, okay, other devices that are useful for cooking purpose or other efficient devices from renewable energy sources perspective. Okay, so these things we are going to see in our this course of our certificate course in renewable energy. Okay, so these are the things, and various teachers, of course, from our department will be guiding you in this regard. Okay, so today let us start with this our renewable energy sources. Okay, first of all, as you know that renewable energy sources derive their energy from the existing flows of energy from ongoing and natural processes like this sunshine, wind, flowing water, biological processes, and geothermal energy flows. Means we are actually are all aware. Means today in our today in our lives, what we do, we simply use this. Means petrol is one of the energy sources that actually runs our vehicles, our motorcycles. Okay, trucks, buses, cars, aeroplanes, aviation fuel we use for aeroplanes. Okay, so these things we use for our petrol is one of the things. Diesel is another form. Okay, another form of it. Then natural gas we use for our cooking. Okay, LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. CNG is the compressed natural gas that we use in our cars. So these are all conventional sources of energies. Coal is one of the sources that is used in thermal power plants. Okay, coal is one of the sources that we use in thermal power plants to generate energy. And after that, we also have these are the means what these are the conventional energy resources. Okay, wood is also one of the conventional energy sources that we use to heat. Okay, heat means we use to heat means people in villages or in rural areas who don't have a particular access to the LPG, or they actually prefer use wood for their daily chores. They for use wood for their cooking or heating water or maybe any other purpose. Okay, so these all energy sources get into the tuning of this conventional energy sources. Means the energy sources that are very easy to use, convenient to use. Okay, so these are the very conventional energy sources that we can use. And other things are non-conventional resources. Means first of all, you might think that today we are having a certificate course on this renewable energy sources, but why this guy is speaking about conventional and non-conventional? So let me first of all clear this difference, and we will also speak on this renewable and non-renewable energy sources first after that. Okay, so I was speaking about conventional energy sources. So conventional energy sources, I just told you the example like petrol, diesel, coal, wood. These are very easy to use and very easily available, so that is why we call them as conventional energy sources. And non-conventional energy sources are like that are available but not that easy to use. Okay, we cannot use that conventional energy source very easily. Okay, we cannot use that conventional energy source very easily, or we cannot harness them very easily. That is why they are called as non-conventional, means they are not convenient to use, but they might be useful, they might prove useful in the coming future. So these are the basic things that we have to actually see. So first and foremost thing, uh, renewable energy sources. So let us see about these are non-conventional, conventional and non-conventional. Okay, then comes renewable energy source. Okay, renewable energy source means even if means for example, if suppose if I have 1 kg coal. Okay, I have 1 kg coal. I use that 1 kg coal to heat water, to heat something, my iron. Okay, iron means you iron the clothes, right? In that purpose I use it. And for 1 kg coal actually got used up, so I don't have any another 1 kg coal from that. It will not just recover itself or get it into its original form. Okay, so that is what actually I am speaking about. Means well, this is the thing that I have to clearly mention, that this the 1 kg coal that got exhausted by hitting it, I cannot make its use once again. So basically, this is what actually the meaning of this non-renewable energy source means. Coal basically is a non-renewable energy source. I cannot use it once again, like the petrol. The petrol you filled in your bike, means for example 1 liter or something like that, whatever volume you fill in your bike. So if you use it up once, you cannot use it the second time. Okay, means the petrol is gone. Okay, but so these are the non-renewable energy sources. And then coming into the case of renewable energy source, means what actually renewable energy source is. So in case of renewable energy source, I'll just say you that the energy sources that we can use multiple times without the fear of those sources getting exhausted. Okay, so these energy sources are called as, or such energy sources are called as renewable energy sources. Means in the name itself, it suggests that we have a renewable energy source. All right. So the renewable energy source, as we know that these types are the, as I just mentioned, that these are sunshine, wind, flowing water, biological processes like biomass and biodiesel and all these things, biogas, okay, and geothermal heat flows. So these sorts of energies are renewable energy sources, but are non-conventional. Okay, means easily, means sunshine. I know that sunshine is available to me, or sunshine, or the heat of the sun, or the light of the sun, or the flowing wind, the flowing water. These all are the cow dung that we use to produce biomass, okay, or biogas. These are easily available to me. Okay, but I cannot use them means, conventionally. Means I just cannot put that solar energy or sun's light into my bike and make my bike run. Okay, I cannot make that. So these are non-conventional energy sources. So basically, I hope your idea might have got cleared. Means what are renewable energy sources, what are non-renewable energy sources. I just spoke of, okay, spoke about it before, and what are conventional and what are non-conventional. Means these energy sources we are speaking about. So these are renewable energy sources, and apart from that, these are non-conventional energy sources, right? So, uh, going ahead. So, renewable energy sources. Now, if I read the definition once again, you will now. I hope that your idea will get very clear regarding this thing. So, renewable energy sources derive their energy from existing flows of energy from ongoing natural processes such as sunshine, wind, flowing water, biological processes, and geothermal heat flows. Okay. So, a general definition for renewable energy sources is captured from an energy source that is replaced by natural processes such as power generated from sun or the wind. Okay, this is basically the thing that I just spoke about. Okay, so just going on to first of things, first of its kind. We shall focus on first of its kind, like the solar energy. Okay, so the solar energy is something like one of the promising most technologies, that solar energy, solar power, that is worth considering. It's for its sustainable, its renewability and emission reducing quantities. Means first of all, what happens that first and foremost thing that the today the whole world is fighting with is the emissions. Okay, emissions from, let the emissions be from vehicle, or let those be from the factories. Okay, or any other sources. So basically the thing is that we have a lot of emissions, CO2 emissions, or emissions of harmful gases, okay, in our atmosphere, that has actually led to the problem of global warming. Its emission of CO2 basically increases the global warming of our, means of our earth. Okay, global warming means warming of our earth rather. So basically that is the main reason. Means emissions are very very at large quantities. Emissions are, means the with nations like China, US and India, almost Russia also, they possess majority of industries, so they emit a lot of CO2 in the atmosphere along with poisonous gases. So these poisonous gases literally are very harmful to us, as you know that poisonous gases SO2, NO2, and all these things. And then also we have carbon dioxide, CO2. This leads to the global warming. Okay, CO2. So basically, solar energy we can use as an alternative for these all emissions, so that we can have one of the cleaner resources of energies. Okay, so in thermal power plant, okay, as we will see in the upcoming lectures, but still I speak few words regarding thermal power plant. Okay, so in thermal power plant, what happens that the coal actually is you used to run the turbine, it's heat of the coal, and what happens that after coal being conventional energy source, it does not get burned completely. It leaves behind ashes. Okay, So that is why it leaves behind ashes, and in this case, so that smoke actually comes up, and the smoke has to be uh, let out of the chimneys from thermal power plants. So that is why the smoke, it gets emitted into the atmosphere, and large quantity of CO2 also gets emitted into the atmosphere. So basically, if we use solar energy, so we don't have to actually produce that of heat energy. Already we have the access to our solar, means sun's energy during the day, so that we don't have to invest more into that sort of that form of energy. Okay, so this is the thing regarding the emissions I just spoke about. Okay, so this is so we know that photovoltaic cell, uh, we have read about it, because what is photovoltaic cell? Photo means light, produced by light, and voltaic is electricity that is produced by chemical reaction. Okay, so photo stands for light, photo electric effect, photovoltaic cell. We all know what is photoelectric effect, especially the second year students. They know photoelectric effect very well. That photoelectric effect was discovered, was explanation given for, was discovered by Henry Hertz, and Einstein was awarded with Nobel Prize for its explanation. Okay, that is what that was the photoelectric effect. So photo means light, and voltaic means electricity produced by means of chemical reaction. So if we can do this, we can clearly harness the energy of sun to produce. Okay, so we can clearly use the energy of sun to produce this solar energy. Okay, so basically what photovoltaic cells use the solar energy to generate chemical reaction that produces electricity. Okay, each cell contains a semiconductor, most commonly silicon. Okay, in one of the several forms, and crystalline, multicrystalline with impurities, either boron or diffuse throughout, and is covered with a silk screen. So basically, it consists of a semiconductor like silicon, and basically it is a doped one, means it is either p-type doped or n-type doped semiconductor. And silicon is p-type or n-type doped. Okay, p-type means it is doped with another impurity, or with that is trivalent, means that has a valency of 3. Impurity has a valency of 3, and if it is doped with a pentavalent impurity, if it has a valency of 5. Okay, so pentavalent and trivalent impurity the silicon is doped with. So this is basically how photovoltaic cells are designed. Okay, then the cells are joined together by circuit and frame into the module. Semiconductors allow the electrons freed from impurities by the sun's rays to move rapidly into the circuit, generating electricity. Okay, so commercial residential photovoltaic cells can give a power output ranging from 10 watts to 100 watts in direct current, and basically these things are PV modules can also be used en masse to create large scale power plants. Okay, so this can be done at very large scale also. So if we can residential, it can generate 10 to 30, 300 watts. And if we can have a series of it, okay, if we can have a series of photovoltaic cells, we can definitely generate very large amount of energy with help of these. Okay, so now moving on to the next slide. So basically this is the working of solar energy. So this is the solar irradiance, which we get energy from sun here. This is the solar panel. Okay, this is the solar panel that we have. Then this is the charge controller, means the energy of the sun is harnessed into all this solar, harnessed by this solar panel, and it goes into the charge controller. After that, it goes into the battery system. Okay, and it gives you DC power directly into your homes. Otherwise, there's also another option to store that energy generated into an inverter, and it gives you AC power. Okay, so this is basically the working of your solar energy. So you will in detail you will be explained this thing by Chennekar sir also in the upcoming lectures. So these are the things actually you have to keep in mind. Okay, so I hope this is really very clear to you all. And going ahead, we will see now the concept of wind energy. Okay, wind energy, we know that what is the concept of wind energy basically. So wind, almost it actually wind energy is the energy that actually flows. Okay, wind energy flows. Wind is everyone is well aware about wind or air. Okay, or storm. Okay, these are the few names for wind that we know. Okay, so wind is the uh, more advanced version of breeze. Okay, breeze is something lighter air flowing in a very mild way, that is called as breeze, that we can say breeze. Okay, and wind is a bit stronger version of breeze, means more intensively the breeze flowing can be termed as wind. Okay, and storm is the most advanced version of breeze, wherein you have nothing to, you can do nothing, and it is very of a heavy magnitude. Storm, okay, that is storm. So that is what wind, breeze, wind, and storm actually are used on. But usually in terms of usage of this energy, we term it as wind energy. Okay, so wind energy is one of the most promising alternative energy technologies of the future. Throughout the recent years, the amount of energy produced by wind-driven turbines has increased exponentially due to the significant breakthroughs in turbine technologies, okay, making wind power economically compatible with the conventional sources of energy. So basically, these are the conventional sources of energy that you have, and these are the, means what turbine we have to use a turbine technology with these things. Means you have, all might have seen windmills. Okay, what are windmills? Means windmills are simply massive structures erected on the ground surfaces having two or three blades. Okay, and they simply rotate along the means along the direction of wind. Means if wind blows in a particular direction, they will rotate along these things, and how fast the blade rotates decides the rotation speed of the turbine. Okay, that is actually connected to a generator, and finally you can have the electricity produced. Okay, so wind can be you used to produce electricity. So basically this is the thing. And wind energy is a clean and renewable source of energy. We know that clean means why? Because it does not emit any harmful gases. Okay, no sort of harmful gases are emitted into the atmosphere because of this wind energy, and that is why we term this sort of the source of energy as a clean source of energy. Okay, and this is a renewable source of energy. Why? Because wind will never get exhausted. Okay, you will have wind throughout the year or throughout the, means any time of the day, night, evening, morning, something, wherever it, whatever time you take and whatever month, whatever season you take, wind will remain available to you. Okay, it won't get exhausted anytime. It existed since the ages, and it will continue to exist till many years ages, until the whenever means till eternity. Okay, so the use of windmills to generate the energy had been initialized as 5000 BC, means since very long ago, the human has been using wind to produce energy. Okay, but the development of wind energy to produce electricity was sparked by industrialization. Means when industrialization started in Great Britain in something 1600, then generation of electricity by usage of wind. Okay, it actually started at the time of industrialization in Europe, when the industrialization started in Europe. Okay, so let us see this in short. Means what actually this thing happens. So basically, this is a windmill. This is a windmill. These are the blades of the windmill. Okay, these are the blades of the windmill, the rotor blade. Okay, these are the blades of the windmill. I hope you might have seen what is a windmill. You might have all seen what a windmill is. So if the wind comes into this direction, so the blades start rotating. Okay, so this is the gearbox of the windmill, and this is the nacelle of the windmill, and a generator is placed in the windmill itself, in the nacelle itself. Nacelle consists of the gearbox and the generator. That specific storage device for gear, this is called as a nacelle. Okay, so basically these are the power cables that pass through the this stand, or what we can call it as the erection of this windmill. Okay, this long windmill, and after that these power cables are connected to a transformer. Okay, so generator, this is the generator. It produces electricity, and with the help of this these wires, this transformer is connected, and this transformer is then connected to the switch yard. Okay, and by this is the switch yard, and this first switch yard, second one, and the third one. I hope you might have seen these structures called as switch yards in your fields, or whenever you travel. Okay, these switch yards are really is virtually seen by everyone whenever you travel either by road or by railways, or means you can see this. Okay, so you can see this, and after this, these are actually made available to every home. Okay, so basically this is the use of wind, how to produce wind energy. Okay, so we're coming to the next slide. Okay, so once one has one actually a question here can really come to mind, that where does this wind come from? Okay, so wind is basically the form of solar energy that is caused by the uneven heating of the atmosphere, okay, and the sun, and irregularities of the earth surface and the rotation of the earth. Means wind is something like a form of solar energy that is caused because of the uneven heating of the atmosphere of the by the sun. Irregularities of the earth's surface, means somewhere you will find Himalayas and somewhere you will find sea. Okay, means means you have something 8 kilometers above the surface of the sea, and zero somewhere you will find, means somewhere 8 kilometers and something somewhere 0 meters, in fact 0 kilometers, 0 meters, so 8,000 meters and 0 meters. So basically, this uneven is the Earth's atmosphere. So definitely because of the irregularity, the wind will certainly flow. Okay, and also rotation of the Earth is one of the main causes for the wind to flow. And the amount and speed of the wind depends on the Earth's terrain and other factors. The wind turbines use the kinetic energy of the wind and convert the energy into mechanical energy, which can be converted into electricity by means of a generator. Okay, so this thing actually we saw in the previous slide, that the wind actually, when the wind blows, the blowing of the wind actually means the kinetic energy of the wind is used by the turbines to convert it into mechanical energy, to convert the mechanical energy of the turbines into this electricity by means of a generator. So basically, these thing we saw in the previous slide, and there are essentially two types of wind turbines: the horizontal axis variety and the vertical axis design. And most of the windmills that are currently in production are in the horizontal axis windmills. Means the windmills have horizontal axis and not the vertical axis. Okay, so utility scale of turbines produce anywhere 50 kilowatts of to several megawatts of energy. Means again, this is very high. Means 50 kilowatts to several megawatts of energy. Means also it depends upon how speedily the wind is blowing. Okay, so these windmills are generally grouped together in a wide area, which is called as a wind farm. Means if many such windmills are erected together, so we can definitely have a wind farm, and several means 1000 megawatts to 10,000 megawatts energy can be generated simply by using these many uh, there's windmills. Okay, so the proximity of windmills in a wind farm makes it easier to feed the produced electricity into the power grid, and wind energy offers many advantages compared to the fossil-based power and even some other types of alternative energy, and explains why this is the heaviest, highly growing energy source. Okay, so the two main reasons are cleanliness and abundance. Well, this type of renewable energy will definitely have a certain advantage over the oil and the non-renewable energy sources. Okay, so cleanliness means, what about cleanliness? Cleanliness is something that we have to mention is like it is the uh, it is does not emit any sort of CO2. So that is why it is clean. So one more thing that we all have seen, that these are the advantages of wind energy, but these also have the other side of the coin. Means the wind energy also has certain disadvantages, and the certain disadvantages means what are the main disadvantages: that wind power is unreliable. Okay, the wind does not blow at a constant rate, and it does not always blow when the energy is needed. Okay, means I just told you a few seconds ago, a few minutes ago, that the wind energy is actually depending upon the speed of the wind. Means if the wind is blowing very fast, you will have a lot of energy, and if the wind is blowing slowly, you will have very energy of very short time. Okay, so furthermore, the windiest location are almost and often in remote areas far away from big cities where the electricity is needed, and just like with other energy plants, people oppose it because of its aesthetic reasons. The rotor noise produced by the rotor blades is another reason for the opposition. Okay, means it has been said that windmills are not located near the cities; they are located at certain places which are very far away from the city, and the energy transportation that also has various sort of losses, it takes place. And moreover, uh, the reason is that the rotor that actually uh, rotation takes place of the rotor. Okay, the noise of the rotor when the wind blows is too high and is too very of great intensity for the people to hear it. So it is being opposed on that ground. So this has two disadvantages, that wind does not blow uh, at very places close to city. It blows at very remote areas. And second thing is the rotor noise of the rotor that is opposed by the people. Okay, so these are the two main disadvantages of wind energy. Okay, so everything comes with advantages and disadvantages, but we have to focus over the advantages and not upon the disadvantages. All right. So this was about the wind energy. So now let us see about the hydroelectric power. Okay. Okay, so we were speaking about hydroelectric power. Means hydroelectric power, you know that hydro is something Greek. It comes from Greek word called as water. So that is the hydro, and the way actually we use it to generate electricity. So that method is called as hydroelectric power generation. Okay, so basically this is all about hydroelectric power generation. So hydroelectric is more reliable, efficient, and economical. Okay, so furthermore, the concept behind hydroelectric power is fairly simple and has been in use for a significant span of time. Okay, so the earliest reference to this use of energy is from the falling water based on Greek word and Antipater in the 4th century BC. This falling water is called as means water is basically hydro, that is referred to as in Greek language. So what is hydroelectric power plant? I hope you already know. Means the diagram is given here. At the bottom you can see the diagram here given at the bottom, and this actually may make your concept regarding this hydroelectric power generation pretty clear. Okay, so of the some few means history I have mentioned here, means what sort of exactly thing has to be done is due to the Romans' powerful influence on Europe through the conquest. The water wheel was the commonly found throughout the continent, and by 1800, 10,000 of water wheels had been built. Okay, so water energy was first converted into electricity on September 30, 1882. Okay, so by near Appleton in Wisconsin. Okay, so this was the place where first generation of electricity by means of water took place. So what actually you might have heard, and this is a part of history. Actually, I didn't know this. I simply found that it can be really useful to you people. Generally, whenever we come across the term hydroelectric, okay, or hydroelectric thing, means if in our schools or in our environmental studies paper might be, or generally if we read any sort of magazine or a newspaper, in fact. So we might have come across this term hydroelectricity or hydroelectric power plant many times, but exactly so history is never mentioned. Regarding this, history did not come across very often. So I simply means actually I also did not come across. So I felt okay, that this history means should be shared with you people. Okay, so water wheel and then how hydroelectricity actually came into use, and that was also generation, rather hydroelectric power generation was very rampant then, and it is also one of the most reliable, clean, and efficient, also economical source of power generation. Okay, you might have, I hope means of this you might have heard about Koina Nagar power plant that is in Maharashtra. Okay, Koina Nagar, you have dam, and many sort of when the dams are built for the purpose of power generation. Okay, means dams, they definitely are built over many rivers, and many rivers dams are built so that water can be stored in that dam and can be supplied to the nearby areas, maybe cities or maybe towns. Okay, so dams are built for this purpose, and moreover, the other usage of dam is to store this generate electricity. Okay, so this is the thing actually that is clearly very useful thing that I feel that of a great use. Okay, so this is one of the renewable energy sources. Water is a renewable energy source. It will never get depleted, hopefully, if we actually use it very frugally. So water won't get depleted forever. Okay, and we will definitely have a great use of it till the upcoming generations, till the last it hopefully it lasts forever. Okay, so basically we have also concept of tidal energy that will come later on. Okay, we will clear that concept later on regarding tidal energy also. But I feel that I should clear this viewpoint regarding this hydroelectric. Means you might have actually got, I hope, means you might have actually come across this question that what actually is hydroelectric power and how you use tidal energy. Okay, both actually hydroelectric and tidal both make use of water. So what's basically the difference? Okay, so in tidal energy, you simply use the energy of the waves. Okay, and in hydroelectric power plant, you basically make use of the water falling from great height. Okay, so what is basically the water falling from great height? Okay, water falling from a great height is you store that energy, you store that water onto some dams. Okay, you store that water onto some dams, and that water actually collects a high amount of potential energy. Okay, so that potential energy of water, falling water, is converted into kinetic energy by means of the turbine. It gets rotated, and that turbine, when it is connected to the generator, actually then it generates electricity. Okay, so this is basically the working of hydroelectric power plant. Means a hydroelectric power plant makes electricity or generates electricity. Means rather it rotates the turbine by means of water falling from a great height. Okay, so that height factor mgh in potential energy, that actually is made use of in this generation of hydroelectric power. Okay, so it is clearly different from as in the case of this tidal energy, wherein you don't use water falling from a height, but simply use the water energy of the waves. Means waves come front, go back, high tide, low tide, and all these concepts we will see later on. Okay, so this is basically the introduction, and we'll see this later on. Okay, so this is basically the hydroelectric dam. Okay, this is the dam. This is the river. Okay, then this is the turbine, this is the water bed, this is the penstock. Means from this our river, it is closed here. Then if you need water, you can store this. This is the intake, this is the reservoir that they have made here. Okay, and then what happens that it takes from this river, water has been taken from the river, and they actually release the water. Okay, so after it's released, what happens that the turbine gets rotated in the generator, and it produces electricity, and then it is connected to the long distance power lines for power transmission. Okay, this means your idea about hydroelectric power plant or hydroelectric generation might get clear with by seeing this video. I feel means by seeing this diagram itself. Okay, so it is very clear. A diagram is very clear. It is self-explanatory rather. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide now. So harvesting energy from the water is possible due to the gravitational potential energy that's as I mentioned in water. As water flows from high potential energy, means high ground, to lower potential energy of lower ground, the potential difference thereby created can be converted into kinetic, and in this case electricity. I just mentioned you that in the diagram itself that how these things work and how these things actually go. Means kinetic energy of the means potential energy of the stored water at a great height is converted into the kinetic energy by rotating the turbine, and it is converted into electricity generation. Okay, so the water wheel discussed in the beginning of the paper is currently no longer in use and has been replaced by far more economical and efficient dam. First of all, it was simply a water wheel. The water wheel was used to make water fall from a smaller height. Okay, so smaller height gave you smaller quantities of electricity. But when water fell from great height, okay, when water fell from great height, it gave you a large quantity of electricity. Hence, it was thought that if we could replace the water wheels, we can definitely make the water. If we can make the water fall from greater height, we can definitely have great amount of energy. Okay, we can have great amount of electricity or energy generated. That is what was the purpose or motive behind making this uh, dam a, success. Okay, so uh, both we know that both water wheel and dam work on the same principle, but dam has other advantages also, that you can use the water of the dam to generate electricity, no doubt, but also you can supply it to your various townships, okay, cities, towns, villages, wherever, or even in farms, industries. You can make the water supply through that dam. Okay, for various of these uses: households, industrial, agricultural, and other uses. Okay, so these are the two advantages of building dams. Means first one is to generate electricity, and second one is to make it available for other various purposes. Okay, so a pumped storage plant is very similar to the hydroelectric dam, and the main difference being that of the pumped storage plant uses two reservoirs, one being considerably higher than the other. So the advantage is of this design, and during periods of low demand for electricity as much as nights and weekends, so energy is stored by reversing the turbines and pumping water from lower to upper reservoir. Okay, so the stored water can be later released to turn the turbines and generate electricity as it flows back into the low reservoir. So this is something like the term that I have used. Then let us have a look for a few advantages of hydroelectric power, that it is again one of the clean source of energy, that it does not emit any emissions, means it does not emit any carbon dioxide or any CFCs or any other harmful gases. Okay, so then the generation of electricity by using hydroelectric method has no such disadvantages regarding the atmospheric emissions. Okay, so it does not have that. And the most important, probably the most important asset of hydroelectric power is its reliability. Okay, further, once the no pollution is there, as I mentioned, and if the dam is built, uh, means it also is a process. Actually, is a dam building dam is not that economical. It actually costs you a lot. Okay, it actually costs you a lot, but as I mentioned earlier, that it has two big advantages. That first is of electricity, and second is of storage of water. Storage of water means supply of water. Okay, so these are the various advantages. And yeah, this is the thing. And one more thing is that if you during the rainy seasons, like it is now the rainy season, the dams get filled by themselves. Means you don't have to, means the area, means first of all you build a dam over the river, but if the river dries up during summer, you can still have some storage in your dams, and you can use that storage to supply water to your cities. And once the rainy season is back, once the rainy season sets in the month of June, July, or in the August, you can the rains actually fill the dam also along with the river. Means a river flows, means the water of the river gets stranded there, and if you feel that the reservoir is really full, so you can release the water there. Okay, now the water, then the what release the water, and the released water of the river, which actually will find its flow, and the river also flows, and you have a greater storage of water that can come handy in the cases where there is very dryness, or you can really have means where is there epic means so shortage of water. Okay, so in case of all these things, you can have the greater use of dams. Okay, so the disadvantage, now let us see, every the coin has two sides. First is the case of your advantages, and second is the case of the disadvantages. So let us have a look on the disadvantages of dams. That other than high construction and planning costs, major drawback of large dams is mostly environmental. Okay, so because it can change the landscape very hugely. Okay, means first of all, dam, dam is very large, very huge. It requires a lot of area. It requires a lot of construction to be made. It requires a lot of area to be cleared. Okay, means if a river flows through a forest, and if that if that area of where the dam has to be constructed is found suitable, means from this area, if you can build a power plant, if you can have uh, the water supplied to a nearby town, city, something like that. So first of all, what happens, that the land has to be cleared, means the forest land has to be occupied. The forest land has to be cleared of the trees. Okay, then for the after that, you have to actually make the very large area of forest has to be used in this process. And moreover, what happens, that you have to build concrete, in case you have to prepare concrete where there existed greenery. Okay, so this is where basically the landscape can change. Means first of all, at place where there used to exist forest, now there exists dams, concrete there exists. And one more thing is that first of all, the aquatic animals, the animals in the water, actually they used to find their ways from a particular place before construction of dam to the other place very easily. But now it is not happening. Why? Because they get stranded, they get stuck. at a particular place where the dam was built. Okay, where the dam is getting built. So their habitat also gets changed. The aquatic flora and aquatic fauna also get adversely affected, and the aquatic creatures, fishes, uh, crabs, or any crocodile, if it may be there, or any other sort of creature, may not find its way to the other way. And also the if you build a dam and store water at a great height at a particular level, so animals definitely may stay alive in the dam. But if during the um, summer, if the river dries up, then what happens? The animal have to also suffer. Aquatic and plants also have to suffer. That they don't actually have to, they die simply. So they don't find any way into the water. Okay, this is the first drawback, and many people also get rehabilitated because of their building of dam. Means if government decides to build a dam in a particular area, so people also have to get rehabilitated. Means they have to also, government has also to pay their compensation to the people, so that they also get into some different places other than the place where there was dam. Means sometimes government has to pay them compensation for their acquired farms, for their acquired houses, or from the township. So these are the various things that actually dam and the other way around, hydroelectric power generation process actually takes a toll. Okay, so this is basically the thing. So finding sites for dams is also a challenge. Means you have to make really sure that the dams are built on very, means always it will be affecting the people there, the animals there, the flora fauna there. But you should be careful. You should take appropriate care, due care, so that the local flora and fauna won't get affected, and it will be of very essential and great use in this regard. Okay, so this is one of the things that you should be really aware of, and you should be that engaging, so that least you make least damage to the society. This was all about hydraulic power generation, its advantages and disadvantages discussed. And now we shall see the geothermal energy. See, this is the diagram for geothermal energy. You can see here. Means geothermal means this is the your ground. This is the ground, and in the ground, huge pipelines are dug, and this is the lava you can call. This is the sedimentary rock, insulating sedimentary rocks. Insulating means actually it provides an insulation from this granite. Sorry, this what I can say, this lava to this ground. That is why you cannot feel this. You cannot feel this 270-degree heat at the ground, right? So this is basically the layer of insulation of sedimentary rocks. Okay, so basically how we shall see now how this uh, geothermal energy is used. Again, how this is a renewable source of energy. Okay, again, geothermal energy. Geothermal means what is geo? Geo is something related to the earth. Okay, geo is something related to earth, and thermal means heat. So the earth's heat is used to generate electricity here. Okay, so earth's heat of the earth is used to generate electricity. Okay, so geothermal energy is one of the only renewable energy sources not dependent on the sun. Instead, it relies on the heat produced by the surface of the earth that we actually as mentioned. There are basically two applications of geothermal energy. First includes producing electricity, and okay, so and second is the direct heating, which is used to use the temperature of water piped to the earth's surface. Okay, so first one is to produce electricity, and second is to directly heat. Okay, so directly it is used to heat. So these are the two basic uses of geothermal energy. And geothermal power plants take on several types of forms, like depending on the type of geothermal area where which they extract. So basically what happens that you have to find again a good area for this geothermal energy, where this you can select a good area, and you can harness, means wherever you can harness this lava energy of lava, means source, it comes into your picture, so that it can give you heat from the this earth. Okay, so one thing is very sure, means whenever I first of all read regarding this geothermal energy. So one thing actually propped in my mind. What thing propped in my mind was the first and foremost thing that came into my mind was that in case of boring, you might have seen boring. Okay, boring. Whenever we see that we actually bore into the, we make a bore into the Earth's surface and extract water from the surface of the Earth. You all might have seen that boring. Actually, we call in our local terms or local language, we say it boring. Okay, so we make a bore into the Earth's surface and extract water from that surface, and by putting a machine there, we can extract water and use it for our farms, for our daily needs, wherever industry, wherever. Okay, so we can use that water. So first and foremost thing, what I thought that, yeah, if we can make a bore into the Earth's surface and we can extract water, so how deep we must go to use this geothermal energy? Means whenever you make bore into the surface of the Earth, definitely one can find water. Okay, but there are certain points that you cannot find water. Okay, there are certain places you cannot find water. Okay, or there is water but it is of very at very deeper, the water is of very small amount of water may be found there. So such places are usually chosen to extract the geothermal energy, so that if you make a bore into the earth's surface, you can find water, but that is only for a small moment. Means, beyond that particular point, dug into the or bored into the surface of the earth, you won't find water, but you definitely will get into the heat of the surface of the earth. Those are the points where you can sink your this pipelines, your these tubes of made up of some certain great quality of metal or some alloy, so that you can extract the heat of the earth to make your electricity, okay, from it, or directly heat your other things, okay, make the use of it for your other purposes. Okay, so basically this is the geothermal energy. So it can also cool buildings by pumping water underground where the temperature remains relatively stable near 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and then into buildings where the water absorbs it, thus helping the air condition of the building. Okay, so the process involves drilling deep into the surface of the earth where temperatures are hot, and then injecting water in the cracks of rocks, which is heated and then pumped back to the surface. As I mentioned you earlier, that we can also find water there. So where the climate is very hot and very dry, so where there those are the places, chosen to make sources of geothermal energy, where you can just go deep into the earth and make this out of it, take the heat out of it, so that with this heat process, this heat exchanger process takes place, and this is the this geothermal energy plant. Okay, by a geothermal energy plant, and you can simply, by with the process of this heat exchanger, if you have to heat anything, you can make the use of this heat from the earth's uh, ground, okay, underground of the earth. You can make the use of this heat for the heating purpose, or you can make the use of heat to rotate the turbine of the and generator producing the electricity, and then electricity can also get generated. So this is basically all about geothermal energy. Okay, so we saw this thing about geothermal energy, and now let us see these few things regarding this biomass also. So what is biomass? So biomass, so we know what is biomass. Okay, biomass is also again a clean source of energy that can be used, that can be really used for various purposes. Okay, biomass is also a thing that can be used for various purposes. So this basically, you know that biomass is something like we actually use in our day-to-day life. We actually come across this biomass in our day-to-day life. Okay, so what is this biomass? So biomass is basically nothing but we see leaves, leaves of a tree fallen on the ground. Okay, we see that. Then we see agricultural waste, we see agricultural waste. Okay, so agricultural waste is also there. We know what is agricultural waste. Agricultural waste is something like the crops that are no longer of use, means the harvested crops. Okay, then the sewage actually that comes out of the toilets, means every for these are the natural processes a human has to really go through in his daily life, and the sewage actually is also a form of biomass. Then municipal solid waste. Municipal solid waste means the garbage actually we throw into our this the vehicle, garbage collector vehicle that actually comes day to our house. We separate it, means dry garbage and that is wet garbage. Okay, we separate it, so that garbage actually forms the a part of your biomass. Then apart from it, the animals are also a source of biomass, like they produce dung. Okay, cow dung or buffalo dung or any sort of these dungs are uh, used as biomass. I hope that you might have seen that the cow dung or the cow dung cakes. Okay, cakes made from cow dung which are dry. Cow dung cakes which are dry are used as a source of fuel. Many times we see that, but it is actually a sort of emission. Okay, because it actually gives out harmful gases or carbon dioxide. So this is one of the sources of emissions. Okay, so this is dung. Directly burning dung is not biomass. Okay, burning of dung cakes is not biomass. It comes in form of this conventional source of energy, because and also it is this non-renewable source of energy. Okay, because the once the cow dung gets because the once the cow dung cake that you use, it gets exhausted and it actually emits. It gives out harmful gases, carbon dioxide. So it is harmful source of energy. Sorry, it is non. It is a conventional source of energy. Okay, it does not come into renewable source of energy. Then for industrial, also our industry produces a lot of waste. Okay, so the raw material it uses to produce certain products. So after the usage of raw materials, the waste remains. So that forms our biomass. Okay, so again, electricity can be generated in many places through solid fuel combustion. These products are usually wood, matter, vegetation, and waste from lumber yards, and the like. Okay, so these basically all this matter can be used to generate electricity. Okay, so power plants which burn fuels to heat a boiler, and the resulting steam powers the turbines and generators. So this process still releases a lot of carbon dioxide and other polluting gases into the environment, but helps eliminate waste efficiently. Okay, so what happens that in power plants we use coals. Okay, so we use coal in power plants to burn it, and the steam of the water to heat the water, so that steam gets generated and that rotates the turbine. So in case of coal, you can use this biomass. Okay, so in this coal you can use this biomass, so that you can burn this, and instead of coal you can burn this and to produce heat, which rather steam, so that it rotates the turbine and electricity gets generated. Okay, so means it has been simply said that in place of coal you can use this to burn. Okay, but and one more thing is that it won't produce that many of harmful gases as the burning of coal and other chemicals produce. It has been said that the pollution will take place, but not at that huge scale. Okay, so this biomass is one of the things that we can actually use to produce our electricity and other things. So as I said, there's all these things are the biomass sources. Okay, sewage is also one of the biomass source. Industrial waste is also biomass source. Agricultural crops and residues are also the source of biomass, while animal residues are also a source of biomass. Okay, so I hope that biomass concept is clear to you, and we shall now advance to the next slide. So microorganisms, especially bacteria and yeast, ferment starchy sugar biomass products like corn yielding ethanol, which can be used in fuel in variety of applications. Biodiesel is increasingly popular fuel, especially in transportation sector. Means what happens that you can means ethanol can be produced. Ethanol is one a type of alcohol. Okay, C2H5OH is the formula of ethanol, and these yeasts and other microorganisms can ferment this crops, sugarcane, and corn and other crops, so that alcohol can be produced. So this is one of the use of biomass. Means you can use this biomass for your this as an earning source also. Okay, let's keep this aside, earning source, and let's focus on this its energy use. Okay, so energy use means you can also produce biodiesel from this biomass. Okay, biodiesel can also be produced, which is being popular and it is used in transportation sector. Okay, So okay, so we know that oil is depleting. Means the oil that we use in our day-to-day life is petrol, diesel, and natural gas we use in our day-to-day life. These sources are depleting. So, in place, if we can use this biogas, or if we can use this biodiesel, or if we can directly use ethanol into our vehicles, then what will happen that our reliability over this uh, petroleum products will certainly get reduced, and we will surely and steadily we will simply get into this bioproducts. Okay, so that it will also be economical for us, and it will actually may not be a financial burden for us, because uh, day by day the fuel prices are increasing. Okay, so if now it means it is something around more than 100 or 105 rupees per liter the petrol costs now. Okay, also diesel is also the diesel price is also getting really surged, and along with this petroleum products, uh, the other products are also getting very they are also actually getting very in great demand, but they are also their price is also getting increased. Okay, they are also becoming expensive along with the rising prices of this petrol and diesel. So if we can develop some technology so that only biodiesel or ethanol can be used to run our vehicles, okay, or if we can bring in electrical vehicles, so that will be of great use. I think this Tesla, you might have heard the this name of this Tesla company. Okay, Tesla company, the owner is Elon Musk. Okay, so he actually is working in purview of these electric vehicles. So electric vehicles also, we have a great discussion over this electric vehicles in the upcoming days. I think mm, one of our eminent lecturers, our speakers, it is will speak on electrical vehicles. Okay, e-vehicles. So what about electrical vehicles and how they will work and how they can be of great use of this thing. So e-vehicles can also be used. So this is one of the greatest usage of this e-vehicles that we have. Okay, so, but e-vehicles is a different topic. We were speaking about this ethanol and this biodiesel terms. So, ethanol being biodiesel, if we can develop some technology so that our vehicles simply will use this biodiesel. Okay, so that will be of great use for all of us people. Okay, and um upon further, if we can or that what will happen that it will certainly reduce pollution, and also as I said you that it will make your expenses less, so that you can save more. But such technology development will surely take certain time, and I feel that we are in the era of introducing electric vehicles. So let us first of all see electrical vehicles means, I don't know how electrical vehicles will prove efficient, because after all, they will be running on electricity, and electricity will get generated into our power plants. And India has majority of thermal power plants. All right. Let us see how the future course actually takes place, and how what is exactly the future of e-vehicles. But because Tesla Motors, that the owner Elon Musk is making a lot of rounds these days on social media and other platforms. But let us see what is the future of e-vehicles also. The time will definitely tell it also. Okay, so now we are discussing about this ethanol. This fuel quality of ethanol is beneficial for car owners, economy, and the environment. And this is growing technology is looking to be intermediate for so immediate part solution for the upcoming energy crisis. So ethanol is known as ethyl alcohol or green alcohol, and it has chemical formula C2H5OH. As I mentioned earlier, that CH3CH2H is C2H5OH. So this is the chemical formula, and okay. So fuel quality ethanol goes through more processes than do alcoholic beverages in order to make it unfit for human consumption, and to increase its purity so as to avoid separation when mixed with gasoline. So what happens that ethanol is also the alcohol that is used for human consumption. Means many a time alcohol is something called as we know that alcohol consumption is injurious to health and all these things, but still people consume alcohol, and the alcohol people consume is the same alcohol, that is the ethyl alcohol. Okay, this is the alcohol, same ethyl alcohol, and this ethyl alcohol can also be used for our fuel purposes. Okay, so uh, this fuel process, if we have to make a fuel from this ethanol or ethyl alcohol. Okay, ethanol and ethyl alcohol is the same thing. Ethanol is simply other name for ethyl alcohol. So if we have to make the use of ethyl alcohol or ethanol in our vehicles, so it has to go through more processes. Okay, and the processes that are actually done more than the alcohol that is used for consumption. Okay, so more processes, more processes it has to go through the from the alcohol that is used in our daily, that is alcohol that is used for daily consumption, and it is made unfit for human consumption. Means the extensively processed ethanol cannot be used for human consumption. Okay, so the ethanol then that we get at that time is of its purest form, and that purest form of ethanol we are in no need to mix with it gasoline. Okay, so gasoline is another thing that we actually do not make use of. So 100% is not 100 but 99.99% ethanol can be used for our vehicles. It can be done. Okay, because if we make that ethanol not of its purest quality, then what happens that we might need gasoline to mix with it. Okay, again increasing the cost of the fuel, again increasing the cost of the ethanol. Okay, because we are adding gasoline to it, so gasoline definitely will be the additive there. So it will definitely increase the cost. But if we can process it one such a great manner that if the quality of the alcohol is if its purest form, so we don't need to mix in gasoline, and hence it will be in its cheaper form. Okay, so this can be used as a fuel. This ethanol can be used as a fuel, but it also has its drawbacks. Now let us see what are the drawbacks. The drawbacks are that the presence of oxygen and other smaller molecules means that it produces less energy than the raw gas, reducing the fuel economy by 2 to 3%. Okay, the presence of oxygen and other molecules can they react with alcohol, and they actually produce less energy than the raw gas, so that the fuel economy can reduce by 2 to 3%. But the means the fuel economy means it can just getting reduced by 2 to 3% is not very high. Okay, if had it been 20 to 30%, and we actually could have cared a lot, but 2 to 3% is simply means you can keep into mind, means okay, it is fine. Okay, it does not pinch your pocket much. Okay, so ethanol is not used by itself to fuel cars. Instead, it is mixed with gasoline. Okay, so the two most common blends are ethane and E85, where ethane is a blend of 10% of ethanol and 90% of gasoline, and E85 is the most mainstream alternative fuel, is 85% ethanol and 15% gasoline. Okay, so as I mentioned you earlier that we have to mix ethanol with gasoline so as to use or to make it compatible to use as a fuel. So various percentage, means various adjustment of percentage has to be done so that ethanol and gasoline percentage are to be mixed to make it compatible to use as a fuel. But as I mentioned earlier that if you make it to the purest form of the ethanol, then definitely we can have no need, we can have no need to mix it with the gasoline, and we can use the purest form of ethanol. But again comes the problem to process it to its purest form, and how much how much procedure actually it will take, how much time it will take, or how much cost it will incur to us, so that basically the process takes and eventually it purest form reaches to us. Okay, if the cost is increasing, then there is no point. We simply have to make it 85 to 90% pure, and we can mix it with 15 to 10% gasoline, so that our fuel purpose gets sorted. Okay, so one more thing that we have to take into mind is the economical consideration regarding the production of ethanol or ethanol as a fuel. Okay, so this was all about ethanol. its advantage and disadvantages we saw now. Okay, now we are going to slide number 12, that is the last slide, ocean energy that I mentioned about. Okay, in the case of hydrothermal energy, I spoke. Okay, in the case of hydrothermal energy, I spoke that water, although in tidal energy or ocean energy, okay, ocean energy or tidal energy are one are the same. Ocean energy and tidal energy are one are the same. So one and the same. So tidal energy or ocean energy are not different. So as I mentioned you, the case of this hydrothermal energy, hydroelectric power plant, that this although we make use of water in both cases, but in case of hydroelectric power plant or hydroelectric power generation, we basically make use of water falling from great height, okay, where the factor mgh, potential energy height factor, comes into play. Okay, so this is basically what about it was about hydroelectric power plant. And in case of our ocean energy, we simply make use of the tidal energy or the energy of the waves. Okay, energy of the waves we make use of. Okay, so this is basically the use of energy of the waves, means high tide and low tide we make use of. Okay, so nearly 70%, we know that 70% of earth surface is covered by oceans, and which we have, and hence we have great potential to uh, this harness the ocean energy. Humans have exploited the vast energy of potential of the earth's ocean by taking advantage of the wave movement, tides, ocean currents, and ocean thermal energy. Okay, so Europe is the world's leader to harness the ocean energy because of its location and natural geography. So, for example, they have also given that the winds blown across the Atlantic from west to east naturally increase the size of waves on Europe's western coast of the coast of Britain. Which Britain is a country that uses this ocean energy to its maximum. Okay, Britain, as you know, if you see the map, it is an island, and it's to its north lies northwest rather lies the country of Ireland. Okay, Northern Ireland being a part of Great Britain itself. So because of the Atlantic Ocean lies on its west, so the wind blows, and if you erect, okay, if you can erect this wind turbines on the seashore, you can also harness the energy of wind and also the energy of tides. Means you have two advantages, where you can of course use the means if you feel that the waves are really very high, and the waves are really very good, means in nature, means it is the wavy, and if you feel that the wind is also at a very good scale, means it is windy, the atmosphere is windy, so it remains windy throughout the season or throughout the year, then definitely you can have two uses at one place. Like you can erect windmills at the seashores, and you can definitely have wind energy. They make use of wind energy to generate electricity, and make use of ocean energy also to generate electricity. So these are the two things, and Great Britain actually is a great user or a great exploiter of this wind and ocean energy to be specific. Okay, so larger waves have larger energy and therefore more power producing ability. And as it is but obvious that Europe has also led to the way in the technologies that can exploit underwater currents and tides. Okay, this technology works on the principle of rolling waves flowing through joints in a large cylindrical pipe, which pushes high pressure oil through hydraulic motors to generate electricity, which in turn is fed to an onshore grid through an underwater cable. So basically what happens that here in this case, to generate ocean energy is not that simple, or it does not appear to be that simple. So first of all, rolling waves flow through joints in large cylindrical pipes. The pipes are cylindrical, and water is made to flow through these pipes. Okay, so this water then pushes the high pressure oil to the hydraulic motors to generate electricity. Means the hydraulic motors contains oils, and this water pushes the high pressure. Okay, it pushes the high pressure oil to generate electricity. Okay, so which in then to generate electricity, and this in turn is fed through online or onshore grid through underwater cable. Okay, so it is this pipe is fed to a grid. Okay, so grid means it is fed to the grid it is fed to the grid by means of an underwater cable. Means underwater cable is there, and it is fed to the grid so that it generates helps to generate electricity. Okay, so plans are underway to create a wave farm or a coast on Britain using these wave energy converters, and 1 square kilometer of ocean interspread with the devices could produce about 30 megawatts of electricity, which could power 2 lakh homes. Okay, 20,000 homes. So basically, this 30 megawatt of electricity it can produce, it can surely lessen the burden of Britain on the thermal power plants, so that by simply making use of tidal energy, they can supply electricity to almost 20,000 homes. Okay, so this is the view Great Britain has, and at high tide, the water flows through the openings in the barrage or dam, spinning turbines to generate electricity. Okay, so high tide means when the tide is very high, so that is where you can generate a lot of electricity, and the water is retained behind the barrage until low tide, when it flows out again, once again spinning the turbines and generating electricity. So in this case also again the electricity gets generated, okay, when the low tide is there, and the predictability of tides make tidal power a reliable energy source, though it can produce only electricity at certain times of day, that is during the high tides and low tides. Means again the same thing, like we know that during certain time of day when the high tide would take place or when the low tide would take place, so we know that. So based on these assumptions, or not assumptions, but really we know that these things, means when high tide would take place and when low tide would take place. Okay, so based on these things, we certainly can say that we can generate electricity at this point, or we can generate great amount of electricity at a particular point, and we can certainly have a small amount of electricity at certain time. Almost it happens that during a full moon day, it is a high tide day, so on that day you can have more electricity generated, and on a new moon day, okay, we can have means a low tide, so that will actually not be the day to generate more electricity. Full moon day means Purnima, and new moon day means Amavasya. Okay, so Amavasya and Purnima concept I hope you know. So at full moon day, the earth faces attraction, or sorry, the moon faces attraction towards the earth, so it is high tide day, and on the new moon day, the exactly reverse happens, means the attraction actually it is not that great, so it is a low tide. And one more thing that I would like to focus over is that nearly 70% of the Earth's surface is filled with water. Okay, it contains simply water. Means I am not speaking about the freshwater sources, means like lakes or rivers. Okay, I am speaking about the salty water, that the water lies in the seas, in the oceans, so that we can make use of. Okay, almost I know that we cannot make use of water at the Arctic or the Antarctic, means there is no actually no significant population. Rather, there is no population on these two continents, Arctic and the Antarctic one. So that water is although in a fresh form, but it is not of that of great use. But still, the water that is available to us, means the where the human population is existing, so there we can make high use probably of this ocean energy. But hence, as I mentioned you earlier, that if we can collectively build wind turbines along with this ocean, so it will be of great use for us. Okay, means together we can have ocean energy also we can use, and we can use the wind energy also. Okay, so these places uh, observe a difference of about 5 to 8 meters between high tide and low tide, which is ideal and also costs building these types of projectors running high, deterring investors who want to quicker returns on their money. Okay, so what happens that 5 to 10 meters the difference is really observed between high tide and low tide, and that is ideal. And this actually also costs for building these type of projects to run high, and that is why so cost actually are very high, because once you have got 10-meter tide, and again if you have got very 2 meters high tide, so again what happens that the electricity generation gets impacted, and that is why investors, means the people who are actually investing on ocean energy, are actually dead, means are actually not getting that much interest, or not generating that much interest into this thing. So they are actually not willing to put their amount or put their financial energy into this thing. But it's still, government can do that, government can take initiative, and the government can produce, actually government can provide subsidy to the private power generators, or it can simply establish its own power generation system at the ocean and encourage the other people by giving encourage the private players by giving them subsidy in this regard. Okay, so this is basically the thing that we can say about tidal energy. And tidal power plants typically have negative impacts on estuarine ecosystems as well as adding a further obstacle to their implementation. Estuarine ecosystem is the ecosystem of undersea sea in sea life, means it can hamper the sea life. Like tidal energy means if you actually put it into some underwater cables, if you put some underwater machinery into that sea, so again that sea life will sea life of the plants and the animals, like I said, flora and fauna gets adversely impacted. And that is why basically the thing is that it can also affect that ecosystem. So this is one of the drawbacks of the implementation of tidal energy. Again, one of the drawbacks, for first drawback was regarding the monetary basis. Okay, monetary basis was the first drawback, and second drawback is regarding this estuary and all these other things. Okay, so this was basically about ocean energy, and today it was just the introduction lecture for this thing. Okay, for the this 10-day certificate course on renewable energy sources that we organized. So in today's lecture, what we saw, first of all, yeah. So this was the thing actually. So means we first of all we introduced, then we first of all saw what actually solar energy is. After the solar energy came into picture, we saw what is wind energy. After wind energy, we saw geothermal. Then after that geothermal, we saw biomass. Then hydropower plant. Then we saw this ocean energy now, and these things basically we saw today. So what are different parts or different types of energies we saw, and we introduced these forms of energy, this renewable forms of energy, the energy sources that will not get extinguished. Okay, so basically that is why they are called as renewable energy sources, right? So we saw this forms of renewable energy sources, and yeah, definitely this is the thing that we are actually interested in. So first of all, in the introduction, we saw about solar energy. That is, by means of solar energy, you can generate electricity. Basically, electricity is a form of energy that is very important to us. Okay, means whatever whenever we speak means in all these in all these forms of energy sources, means renewable energy sources, if I am speaking about, or if I am speaking about this non-renewable energy sources. So if any type of energy source I am speaking about, I am simply means we are simply dwelling into the thing that we have to generate electricity. It's how we can generate electricity. This is one of the important things. Okay, so in tomorrow's lecture that we shall see the types of power plants. Okay, so in tomorrow's lecture we shall see the types of power plants. Okay, so the types of power plants basically are of three types. Means conventional power plants basically are of three types that you have. You know, thermal power plant, hydroelectric power plant, and the nuclear power plant that we actually spoke about. Did not speak about today, but we'll see in the next lecture. Okay, so basically what my focus means, what actually I need to divert or seek your attention to this thing, that let the energy source be of any form. Okay, renewable energy, non-renewable energy, conventional energy, non-conventional energy, let it be of any form. Basically we are laying our stress over the thing that we have to get electricity. Okay, we have to get electricity out of any of the sources. Okay, or energy out of any other sources, means let it be fuel, any sort of fuel or something like that. So what happens that electricity is one of the first and foremost things actually was that we need, that food, shelter and clothing was the basic requirement of a man something around 100 years ago. Okay, so it was basically the requirement of man 100 years ago, food, clothing and shelter. But now comes electricity also, where if we can generate electricity cheaper at a cheaper scale, if we can generate electricity cheaply at a cheaper scale, then certainly we can make use of it in a greater scale. Okay, So that will, and without affecting the atmosphere, so that will be of a great use to us. Okay, so that will be of a great use to us, and in that case, see, if we make use of renewable energy sources to make electricity, so first thing is that renewable energy sources don't get depleted. Second thing is that the energy that we get is clean, means no emissions are observed. And the third and foremost thing is that we do not have to actually depend upon imports from other countries. Like in case of nuclear energy, we have to import uranium, highly enriched uranium for electricity generation, so that we are dependent on countries like Australia, US uh, for the uranium imports. Okay, so we do not have to depend on other countries for this thing. So if we can make use of renewable energy sources, if we can generate electricity by means of renewable energy, so that will actually prove as a great blessing for us. Why? Because it will save our costs, it will save our dependencies on other countries, and moreover, we will be self-reliant in all the aspects. Okay, so basically, this is the thing that we actually are focusing on. But as we mentioned, that each and every type of this renewable energy source, let it be hydroelectric power plant, let it be solar energy, let it be geothermal energy, let it be the biomass, let it be ocean energy, let it be wind energy. Every thing or every sort of energy has its advantages and disadvantages. But the thing is that this conventional source of energy like coal, petroleum, natural gas, this also has its advantages and disadvantages. But the thing is that if we can focus on the advantages and if we can minimize its demerits of anything, so we can definitely generate a greater uh, and we can generate a greater amount of energy by using this renewable sources, so that, as I mentioned you earlier, that we can cut our costs depending on other countries, or by depending on cut our emissions also. And we can actually fulfill the supply of our uh, this residential, industrial, and agricultural sectors for of energy. Okay, so we can fulfill these demands also. So basically, these are things, means our focus must lie to use these renewable energy sources at a large scale, and we must just see to it that we make it very less harm to the atmosphere, so that our atmosphere, means our flora, fauna, and the ecosystems don't get impacted very in a very just sharp manner. So this is the thing actually that we must really focus on too. And one more thing that I would like to lay stress is that uh, if we can make, means it is not fully possible that we cannot damage to the environment, but if we can make if we try to make less, means very less damage to the environment, if we actually try in this manner, so it will be really of renewable energy is of really and really great use. Okay, it will be of great use, that if by minimizing the damage to the environment, if we can make its utmost and most compatible, most efficient, and meticulous usage, so there is no other source like renewable energy source that will come to a rescue in the future times when the coal and natural gas sources will get depleted, or so it will be nearing in the future. So these are the only sources that we have to really focus on, and we have to be very uh, uh, actually frugal, that we are today nowadays to use this electricity and all these things. But we can make its use in a very efficient way, and it's a very great clear manner, and in a very this prominent way, so that this renewable energy sources come to really our use at the very sharp point. Means if we simply encourage people to, and the investors, private investors or the government, if we encourage people to invest and use these sources properly, so our country will be self-reliant in all the terms of electricity generation or in the terms of fuels.
so that we can definitely save a lot of money, which people and the government or both can and will be able to save a lot of money on this expenditure and this generation. So I feel that means, of course, there are many lacunae also in this regard, but it is the demand of actually these days that you have to really make these renewable energy sources work and get these things done in a proper manner. So that is it. I feel I feel that your concept regarding this at least introduction part means how uh, introduction how this renewable energy sources can be used, their advantages and disadvantages is pretty clear, and we shall also have a meeting tomorrow. We shall also meet tomorrow and discuss the types of power plants as I mentioned earlier, and to be specific, we shall speak about this nuclear power plant in details. Okay, so thanks a lot, and that's it for today. And hopefully, you like this video. So, please subscribe, share, and like this video. And that's it. Thank you. Please like it, and thanks a lot.